There was a time when you didn't need aerodynamic wings, electronic suspension, or a massive TFT screen to build a serious performance motorcycle. You needed 4 cylinders, a big engine, a simple chassis, and enough torque to make the rear tire work for its living. That was the world of the Suzuki GSX1100E. And now, imagine Suzuki bringing that philosophy into a new era. The 2027 Suzuki GSX1100E. Not a superbike, not another adventure motorcycle, but a modern interpretation of one of Suzuki's forgotten big-bore muscle machines. And if Suzuki ever decides to revive this name, it could be one of the most interesting retro motorcycles in the Japanese market. The GSX1100E represents a very different era of Japanese performance. Back then, motorcycles were brutally straightforward. Large displacement, inline-4 power, minimal bodywork, and a riding position that put the engine, rather than the electronics, at the center of the experience. The GSX1100E wasn't designed to be the most exotic motorcycle on the road. Its appeal was different. It was a big Japanese muscle bike, the kind of machine that could cruise comfortably one moment, then unleash a serious wave of torque the moment the throttle opened. And that's exactly why the GSX1100E name still has potential today. Because modern riders are increasingly looking back at motorcycles that were mechanically simple, visually honest, and built around character. So what would a modern GSX1100E actually look like? The most important thing would be restraint. Suzuki wouldn't need to turn it into a full-blown superbike. Instead, imagine a classic big tank silhouette, a round LED headlight, a muscular fuel tank, minimal bodywork, a wide handlebar, and 4-cylinder proportions that immediately tell you this isn't a lightweight commuter. The design could borrow visual cues from Suzuki's classic UJM era while using modern materials and manufacturing. The result? Something that looks old school from across the street, but completely modern once you get close. And that's where the GSX1100E could separate itself from many modern retro motorcycles. It wouldn't need to copy the past. It would need to translate the past. And then we reach the most important question: the engine. A modern GSX1100E would almost certainly need a large displacement 4-cylinder character to justify the name. The exact configuration is impossible to confirm without an official Suzuki announcement. But conceptually, an engine somewhere around the 1-liter plus class would make sense. Strong mid-range torque, smooth power delivery, a deep 4-cylinder exhaust note, and enough performance to make the bike exciting without turning every ride into a racetrack session. And unlike a modern supersport, the goal wouldn't necessarily be maximum horsepower. The goal would be usable muscle, the kind of power you can actually feel at everyday speeds. Roll the throttle open in 3rd gear and feel the motorcycle surge forward. That is the personality the GSX1100E name should preserve. Of course, a 2027 motorcycle couldn't simply be a 1980s motorcycle with a new paint job. Modern safety standards would demand modern technology, so we could expect features such as ride-by-wire throttle control, multiple riding modes, traction control, ABS, a modern LCD or TFT instrument cluster, and possibly a quick shifter. But here's the important part. Technology should remain in the background. The rider should still feel like they're controlling a large mechanical motorcycle. That balance could be the secret to the GSX1100E revival. Modern enough to be safe and reliable, but old school enough to remain emotionally connected to the machines that made Japanese muscle bikes famous. And this is where things become interesting for Suzuki. The retro motorcycle market isn't simply about copying old designs anymore. Riders want identity. They want motorcycles that look different from the endless stream of aggressive modern sport machines. A GSX 1100E revival could give Suzuki exactly that. It could sit somewhere between a classic UJM, a modern naked bike, and a genuine Japanese muscle machine. And perhaps most importantly, Suzuki wouldn't need to invent a new identity. The identity already exists. The GSX name carries decades of performance history. The challenge would simply be translating that history into a motorcycle that makes sense in 2027.
But there's one question Suzuki would have to answer. Should the new GSX 1100E become a technological showcase, or should it stay brutally simple? Personally, if Suzuki ever revives the GSX 1100E name, I'd choose the second option. Give it a big four-cylinder engine. Give it serious torque. Give it classic proportions. Add modern safety technology, and then leave the rest alone. Because the original appeal of bikes like the GSX 1100E was never about having the most technology. It was about the engine, the sound, the torque, and the feeling of riding a genuinely big Japanese motorcycle. The GSX 1100E may be forgotten by the mainstream, but that's exactly what makes a revival so interesting. If Suzuki brought the GSX 1100E back for 2027, would you want the classic muscle bike formula or a completely modern interpretation? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more forgotten Japanese muscle bikes return to the spotlight, subscribe to NDSTV.